The first thing you should do with the JVC camcorder is mount it on the tripod, unless you'll be going handheld. To do this, make sure the tripod mounting plate is fastened securely to the camera. Not too tight, because you could damage it, but not too loose either, because the plate can slip around. You can use a coin to tighten the screw. Get it snug, but again, not too tight. Next, push the orange release button inward and slide the plate onto the tripod. Let the orange release button up, and then secure the camera to the tripod by turning the fastener clockwise. Next, you'll want to power the camera up. Push the battery into the back of the camera with the battery slots facing upward, and then push it down until it clicks into place. Turn the camera on by switching the power button to the on position. It takes a few seconds to actually come on. Set it for the recording format you want. The camera can record at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second at both 480 lines and 720 lines. To set the recording format, push the menu button and hold it down for at least 2 seconds. The options appear. Scroll through the options by rotating the shutter wheel and pick an option by pushing the shutter wheel. To choose the video format, push the shutter wheel when the indicator arrow is next to it. Similarly, push the shutter wheel when it is next to the frame rate to choose a frame rate, and then rotate the shutter wheel to the frame rate you want. Push the shutter wheel to choose the frame rate. Usually, you'll want 60/30 for this option. You do the same thing with the recording format. Move the shutter wheel until it is next to the REC option, then scroll through the 3 options available. If you are recording in high definition, you'll want the HDV30p option. Standard definition would be the DV60i option. Now you'll want to load your tape. Hit the eject button to open the cassette door. Insert the tape with the cassette window facing outward and the tape facing downward. Then, gently push the cassette door back. Never force it. Repeat, never force it. If it won't close with a gentle touch, don't use the camera. The tape will take a few seconds to thread. At this point, you could theoretically start shooting, but the camera isn't white balanced and the lens probably isn't focused. First, set the color temperature you'll be shooting in. Go to the menu, go to Camera Operation, go to Preset Temp, and use the wheel to choose either 3200 or 5600. As a general rule, use 3200 for indoors and outdoors at night, and 5600 for outdoors during the day. To white balance the camera, first, make sure your scene is lit the way it is going to be lit when you actually shoot. Next, hold up something white, a piece of paper, a t-shirt, a piece of poster board. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it is a pure white, and hold it in the approximate position of your subject. Have the camera zoom in on the white object until it fills the screen. Next, make sure the white balance switch on the left side of the camera is in either the A or B position. On the front of the camera, push and hold down the AWB button until it says it's okay in the viewfinder. This usually only takes a few seconds. 2 notes. 1, the object you hold up for the camera has to be a pure white, not something close to white. 2, the auto white balance function will not work with the camera in the full auto position. Now you're ready to shoot. But before you do, you'll have to focus on the shot. The JVC camcorders do not have an autofocus function. To focus the camera, zoom in all the way on your subject and turn the focus ring until you have the sharpest image. If you want, you can use the Focus Assist button on the top of the camera to help you. It will put subtle blue or red lines around the object that's in focus. Then zoom out and frame your shot. Remember, whenever the camera to subject distance changes, the shot is no longer focused unless focused at infinity. To start recording, push any of 3 buttons. The REC button on the left side of the camera, the REC button on the top of the camera, or the VTR button behind the lens servo housing. Pushing any of these buttons again pauses the camcorder. Let's look at some of the other controls on the camcorder and talk about what they're used for. First, the left side. The ND filter can reduce the amount of light entering the camera without otherwise changing the picture. This is often useful in very bright daylight to reduce the depth of field, which is often desirable. However, you'll usually want this in the off position. If it is on when shooting indoors, it will usually result in dim pictures. The gain button boosts the level of the video signal. While this may be desirable in low light conditions, having it in the M or H positions will add noise to the picture. Usually, you want this in the L position. You should check the position of the neutral density and gain controls before you start shooting. The white balance switch should be in either the A or B positions if you are going to white balance the camera yourself. In the preset position, you'll have preset white balance from the factory. This cannot be changed, and in some situations will result in poor color. The white balance switch works in conjunction with the AWB button on the front of the camera, which we have already covered. Remember, you cannot white balance the camera when it is in full auto mode. The audio level controls set the record levels for channels 1 and 2. These controls are bypassed when the audio is in auto mode. The user 1, 2, 3 buttons are memory buttons. You can set up the camera a certain way, and those settings will be remembered until changed. Toward the top, the Focus Assist button turns the Focus Assist function on and off. This we have already covered. The peaking control simply sets the viewfinder sharpness, and the VF Bright sets the brightness of the eyepiece viewfinder only. The monitor sets the volume of the camcorder's monitoring system. Under the LCD door are several additional controls. The Cam VTR button toggles the function of the camcorder between shooting and playing back tape. When you first turn the camera on, it defaults to the camera mode. Push the button and it goes to VTR mode so you can play back your footage. The shuttle controls for the VTR are on top. LCD Bright adjusts the brightness of the LCD viewfinder. Audio Select allows you to select manual or auto record levels for each of the 2 audio channels. TC refers to timecode. Without getting into an elaborate discussion of timecode, these switches should be in the TC and REC positions respectively. On the top of the camera, we have the VTR shuttle controls under a door. These are for playing back the tape, as well as fast-forwarding and rewinding. The VTR light comes on when the camcorder is in the VTR mode. The Monitor Select allows you to choose Channel 1, Channel 2, or both channels to listen to from the monitor output. Toward the front, you have an additional Focus Assist button and one of 3 record buttons. On the right side of the camera, the IEEE 1394 switch refers to what kind of signal will be exported from the FireWire port. For high definition, this switch must be in the HDV position to capture the video you shot. The line output jack has line-level audio for connection to a stereo system or any device that accepts line-level inputs. An adapter may be necessary to make the connection. The DC input allows you to power the camcorder from an ordinary AC wall outlet with the battery charger unit. The 3 RCA jacks allow output of an analog video signal. The top one, Video Y, puts out a signal that can be watched on an ordinary monitor. Below that is a 6-pin FireWire port for capturing the video directly off the camera. Further up is the audio section. There are 2 XLR inputs, one for each channel. Above them, the audio input switches should be in the mic or mic plus 48V position if you are using a microphone. They should only be in the line position when you are tapping a mixer or other line-level audio source. If they are in the line position when you have a microphone, you probably aren't going to have any sound. The CH2 switch allows you to record the same audio on channel 2 that is coming into channel 1. Unless you will be using 2 different mics, it is usually a good idea to keep this in the input 1 position. On the front of the camera, we have already discussed the AWB button. The zebra switch on the front can be either on, off, or temporarily on by pushing it to the skin area setting. As soon as you take your hand off it, it goes back to being off. On the lens servo housing, you have the zoom control. Pushing down on the W side zooms it out. Pushing down on the T side zooms it in. In front of that, you have an iris switch. In the M position, the iris is set manually by adjusting the iris ring on the lens. In the A position, the iris automatically adjusts itself. The button is a momentary auto iris button. When the iris switch is in the manual mode, pushing this button puts it in the automatic mode only as long as it's pushed. This is good for setting the initial exposure of a scene. On the back of the lens servo housing is the VTR button. This is one of 3 buttons that starts and stops the camcorder. Finally, under the lens, you have a manual override switch. This disengages the servo motor so that the lens can be zoomed in and out manually. This is useful for whip zooms, and it also helps conserve power.